Yo, YouTube, what's up? It's your boy, Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back with another edition, back with another video. Please click the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps me grow the channel. This information is for you. Forgive my no frills videos. I'm just starting out with this stuff. But don't worry about the video and how it looks. Just listen to the words I'm telling you, the information that I'm giving you. I'm telling you right now, you won't be sorry. All right, so let's get into this video. This video today is going to be a video about an interaction I had with a guy on YouTube. I made a comment on a video. Shout out to Too Raw for Sports. If you guys don't know his channel, Too Raw for Sports, you guys should definitely subscribe or watch some of his videos and judge for yourself if you should subscribe. But I made a comment on one of his videos a couple weeks back. And it was I think it was some kind of video about, I think like maybe Nick Wright, talking some nonsense or whatever, and he was basically, debunking everything that he was saying. But the interaction I had with this person on YouTube, I had made a comment about how LeBron is not even. He's like, people try to make this assertion that he's this great all-around player, right? He's great at everything. But in actuality, he's really only good at a lot of things, but he's not great at any one particular thing. He's not. So I had made a comment about that, or the comment that I made was basically saying that, and I pointed out different small forwards in NBA history that were better at him at certain aspects of the game, right? And I gave examples. So what I was saying was that, like I said, these people make this claim that LeBron James is, he's one of the greatest passers of all time. He's got the highest IQ in NBA history, and he's a great scorer, and he's a great rebounder. But it's not true. It's not true. I'm telling you right now, don't believe the hype. It's not true. LeBron is not great at any of those things. He's good at those things. Okay? And what's the evidence? The evidence is there. If you guys watch the game of basketball and you've studied the game of basketball, or if you've watched it for a certain amount of years, you'll understand what I'm saying when I say this. Like I said, he's not great at any one aspect. He's just good at a couple of different aspects. See? And when you look at history and you just take it down to small forwards, right? Let's just talk about the small forwards in NBA history. Who are the greatest small forwards in NBA history, people? Off the top of your head, you go with LeBron, you go with Larry Bird, right? You go with maybe a Dr. J, you go with maybe a Kevin Durant, maybe a Dominique Wilkins, just guys, that were really, really great small forwards. But when you think about the aspects of the game, and then you think about what LeBron does better than any other small forward in NBA history, what is that? What does he do better? Is he the greatest scorer for a small forward in NBA history? Now, you clowns out here and you people who don't really know the history of the game, who just started watching LeBron James' career in 2016, you think, everything is all sunshine and roses with this guy and that he's been, this amazing. Or you started watching him in 2012 or something like that. So you don't even know about the 2011 debacle. See, that's the thing, too, with a lot of these kids, man, or a lot of these people who are here claiming LeBron is this and claiming LeBron is that. They never bring up 2011. You ever notice on these shows, Nick Wright never brings up 2011. And whenever they bring up 2011, they make it seem as if something that LeBron put in his rearview mirror and it disappeared. You can't erase your history. So that right there on his record, for me, ends any kind of debate for him being a top 3 all-time player, I would say. And definitely not the number 1 player of all time. You kidding me? With a debacle like that? But that's not what we're talking about right now. So when you think about small forwards in NBA history, right, and you think about the greatest scorer of a small forward, who would you put in that conversation, or who would you call as the greatest scoring small forward of all time? I mean, I guess you could say maybe a Kevin Durant, I don't know, maybe a George Gervin, right? People sleep on George Gervin. George Gervin has just as many scoring titles as Kevin Durant does. And if you look at George Gervin's numbers, this dude was averaging 30, 32, 33 points a game on like 53% field goal percentage shooting, in an era where, and this dude was doing this with finger rolls. Think about that. I mean, the dude was finger rolling from the free throw line. He was finger rolling from the baseline, and he was still winning scoring titles, shooting over 50% in an era where, efficiency and things like that weren't thoughts. That's the advantage that a lot of these current players have over the older players is they have that advanced, the analytics now in their corner, where guys in previous generations didn't have access to all these stats and analytics and, if I just take 2 less shots a game, maybe I'll have you know what I'm saying? These guys didn't think they play the game just to play the game. And whatever happened during the course of the game happened. If you got 30, you got 30. If you got 40, you got 40. If, you took 15 shots, you took 20 shots, you missed 5, you missed whatever it was. Most of those guys, like I said, it was different. Like I said, you didn't have access to all those kinds of things, technology and stuff like that. So, so would you put a George Gervin as the greatest scoring small forward? Would you put a Dominique Wilkins in that conversation? Larry Bird, right? Larry Bird was a great scorer, great shooter. Kevin Durant, right? So is LeBron a better scorer than Kevin Durant? Can you honestly say that? Now, people are going to look at total numbers, and, obviously LeBron's going to have an advantage over a lot of these guys in total numbers because he has been playing for a long time. But when you look at, let's say per game stuff, right, or averages, Kevin Durant and LeBron James, they basically average the same. Maybe Kevin Durant is a slightly higher average, by a couple of point percentages. But LeBron's averages has been, going down up until, this last season right now where he's averaging like 29 or 30 points or whatever. But the previous couple of years, I think he was averaging like 25 points a game. So his average had taken a slight dip, and I think Durant had surpassed him. Like I said, it's a very small margin, But I would call Kevin Durant a greater scorer at the small forward position than a LeBron James, all right? And where's the evidence? The evidence is there, right? So we talked about the average, right? And then also we touched on the scoring titles. LeBron has 1 scoring title, even though he tried to finagle one this year. He has 1 scoring title, all right, that he won in 2008, averaging 30 points a game on 48% shooting. 48% shooting. So people always talk about this efficiency from LeBron, and that you hear people say, if LeBron wanted to lead the league in scoring every season, he could do that. Yeah, okay. Maybe in theory, he could lead the league in scoring if he really wanted to. Yeah, probably if he wanted to take 20. I mean, look at this year. He led the league in shots attempted. And you always heard LeBron fans try to knock Jordan as some, run and gun dude that didn't do anything but just shoot shot jack, because he averaged, maybe 23, 24, 25, 26 shots a game, during some of these scoring titles that he had during so many seasons. But then you look at this year, look what LeBron had to do to try to average 30. Look what he had to do. He led the league in field goal attempts. And I think this might be his first time in his career that he led the league in field goal attempts for a season. And he only played in like 55 games or something like that. Michael Jordan was doing this stuff, playing 80 to 82 games, every single scoring title. Except for, I believe, 1 scoring title. I believe he played 78 games. But like I said, so he's not the greatest scorer at his position, right? So let's get that out the way right there. LeBron James is not the greatest scorer at his position, right? You could put Kevin Durant there, like I said. You could even put Larry Bird there, man. See, because the thing with scoring, it's not just about, your scoring titles or your points per game. It's about scoring, and your scoring having an impact on winning. That was what separated Michael Jordan. And if you watch my previous video about Michael Jordan's 10 scoring titles, you'll see what I mean. That was the difference between what Michael Jordan was doing winning scoring titles. Michael Jordan was not just out there chucking up shots, getting scoring titles. Michael Jordan was getting scoring titles, winning games, winning championships, and being all-team first defense, right? All first-team defense while those scoring titles, right? The only person who else has done that, I believe, to be all-team, all first-team defense and win scoring title, I think is Kobe and maybe Kareem. Maybe. I don't know. to be first team. I'm not sure, but I know Kobe did it twice in '06 and '07. Right? So I would put Kevin Durant as a better scorer than LeBron at that position. Then another aspect of basketball, shooting. Is LeBron James the greatest shooting small forward of all time? That is such an easy answer. Obviously, he's not. Right? The man cannot even shoot free throws with any kind of consistency. Right? So I would put Larry Bird in that conversation, just off of the top of my head. Like I said, I would put Larry Bird as the greatest shooting small forward in the history of the game. All right? So we've gone through scoring and shooting, right? At the small forward position, LeBron's not the best in either one of those. Let's go to rebounding now. You hear a lot of hype made about LeBron's rebounding. Rebounds. You hear a lot of people, hyping up LeBron's rebounding as if he's, leading the league in rebounding or if he's averaging some monster rebounds. The dude gets, 10, 11 rebounds and people act like that's a big deal, especially in this day and age where the man cherry picks rebounds standing. Listen, all these guys are jacking up three-point shots now in a lot of these games, right? They're taking like 23-pointers a game and shit, right, in some of these games. So there's a lot of longer rebounds, a lot of those bouncy rebounds. So LeBron gets a lot of easy rebounds. But the real way that you can tell about how good a person is at rebounding, right, the effort that they put into their rebounding is on the offensive rebounds. That's what made Dennis Rodman such a force, right? It was the offensive rebounds. The defensive rebounds, yeah, there's an impact there, right? They're possessions. But the offensive rebounds will break a team spirit. There was, if you remember, the 1996 NBA Finals. You hear a lot of people talking about Dennis Rodman should have been in the Finals MVP. That's nonsense. Let's stop it. The man averaged like 3 points a game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he was a great rebounder in that series, and that's what I'm going to get into. But stop it. You can't be the MVP of a Finals because you rebounded good, but you're a liability on the offensive end, right? Come on. So the impact is not, it's not there. But what I was going to say is that if you remember watching that Finals, one of the biggest problems that the Supersonics had was keeping Rodman off the offensive glass. The dude was getting a lot of second shot opportunities. And if you go back and look at Game 7 of the 1998 Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers, the Indiana Pacers, the Bulls won that Game 7 off of second chance points, offensive rebounds. Go back and watch that series, watch that game, and you'll see how many offensive rebounds, second chance points they got. And that's ultimately what crushed the Pacers and got the Bulls into the championship. So offensive rebounds is a key. And when you look at LeBron James' offensive rebounding numbers, it's embarrassing, man, for someone that size. And people talk about, he's always doing this flexing stuff. And people talk about how big he is and how strong he is. He's the greatest athlete, right? So then how come how can Larry Bird average more rebounds a game for a career than LeBron James? How is that even possible? You're telling me that the guy that people call an unathletic white dude with a bad back, right? These guys that people try to act like these guys are lawyers or plumbers, you know what I'm saying, from the 80s and the 90s. These guys are scrubs or whatever. But Larry Bird, non-athletic ass, and I'm being sarcastic when I say that, averages more rebounds than LeBron James for a career. And we're not talking about, he averages maybe like 0.5 rebounds. The dude averages literally 3.5 rebounds more a game. Larry Bird averages a double-double for his career, man. Like 25 and 10. You know what I'm saying? LeBron averages 27 and 7. 7 rebounds? That's all you can muster is 7 rebounds at your size? 7 rebounds, and people think that's great. But like I said, look at his offensive rebound. Look at LeBron's offensive rebounds. Look at the offensive rebound numbers, and that's where he gets embarrassed, man. That's where he gets put out on there on Front Street, man, because the dude has only had over 100 offensive rebounds in a season, I want to say 4 times. 4 times in a 20-year career or a 19-year career. You know how many times Michael Jordan had over 100 offensive rebounds in a season? 10 times. 10 times. For a 6'6" guard, maybe 6'5" and a half guard that weighed 200 pounds, right? This man was out there hustling. That's what offensive rebounds consist of. Hustle. You want to go and get that. Anyone who plays basketball, anybody who's played basketball regularly, right, will tell you that the hardest rebound to get is offensive rebound. Those are the hard. That's why people don't average 15 offensive rebounds a game. You know what I'm saying? Or 10 offensive rebounds a game, but they'll average, maybe 10, defensive rebounds a game. You know what I'm saying? Because those are hard. You have to go and get those because you're out of position. Anybody that knows, you know. So Larry Bird's a better rebounder at that position. And there's other small forwards in the history of the game that have been better rebounders. I would say Julius Erving was a better rebounder at his position than LeBron. But just for the fact of this movie, just like for this video, we're going to say Larry Bird because he averaged over 10 rebounds a game for his career. And the reason I'm saying Larry Bird is because people try to act as if Larry Bird was some, like I said, non-athletic white guy. I don't know when race became important in sports. I really don't. I played basketball since I was probably 7 years old, and I played against all kinds of people: Asian people, white people, black people, Spanish people. It didn't matter. Whatever your background, your background and your race has nothing to do with how you. I mean, I played basketball with dudes that are like 300 pounds, and you're like, there's no way this guy's gonna be able to get up and down the court and play basketball, and the dude would be doing people. You know what I'm saying? So don't come. Whoever started that whole thing with white people, or skinny guys, or fat people, or an Asian dude, or a Spanish, whatever. Whoever started that nonsense about race having anything to do with your athletic ability or your skills playing basketball, you're an idiot, man. You obviously never played sports then and shit, man. Because that's what sports does. Sports is a unifier. It's not a separator. So don't come in here and start throwing around, these things. So anyway, Larry Bird, man, he's a better rebounder than LeBron ever will be. So we've covered scoring, right? I put Kevin Durant as the better scorer than LeBron James historically at the small forward position. We spoke about shooting, and I could put Kevin Durant there again, but I chose Larry Bird as the greatest shooting small forward, right? Better than LeBron, by not even close. And then we've covered rebounding now, and I've gone with Larry Bird, who I believe is a better rebounder than LeBron James, man. And you see the pattern that's developing here, right? So now let's go to passing, right? Passing seems to be LeBron's greatest asset, right? His greatest, ability, right, is his passing ability. And James' passing is pretty good. But when people start to say things like, he's on this level of a Magic Johnson or any of these great point guards. Listen, there are so many great point guards in NBA history that are way better passers than LeBron James, man. And people act as if LeBron is like the second greatest passer in NBA history behind Magic Johnson. And it's so patently false, man. LeBron gets a lot of assists because he has the ball in his hand a lot. And what happens is a lot of his assists are him driving and kicking to an open guy or something like that, right? Or him holding the ball and someone running some action off to the side, a screen or something, and they pop out and he just throws it to them and they come around the screen and they shoot it and he gets the assist or whatever. And not to mention the fact that assists in the last 10 years or so of this NBA, era have been a lot easier to get. Back in the day, if you made a pass, right, and the guy, it wasn't like a pass and the guy went and hit a shot immediately or dunked it or, pulled up right away, you weren't getting the assist, man. Now, dudes will make a pass, the guy will make like 3 moves, make a shot, and the guy will get the assist for that. That didn't happen back in the 80s and the 90s, man. Even in the early 2000s, those kind of assists didn't happen. So the assist numbers have been inflated, not taking anything away from LeBron's greatness as far as his passing goes or whatever. But when people mention LeBron's passing, it's because they're always talking about his numbers, his assist numbers. It's not necessarily, maybe, every other game, or maybe he'll have a nice pass in a game here or there, whatever. But when you compare him to other great passers in NBA history, it's not close, guys. It's not close. And the reason why it's not close, how many times has LeBron James led the NBA in assists? You know how many times? 1 time, right? 1 time. How many times LeBron led the league in scoring? 1 time. So he led the league in scoring 1 time. He led the league in assists 1 time. And you know what year he led the league in assists? What year was that, guys? It was the 2019-2020 bubble season. That's when he led the league. So think about that. It took a bubble season, a COVID pandemic, for LeBron to finally lead the league in assists. That's how corny and cheesy that assist title was for him. That's terrible, man. That tells you all you need to know right there, right? But is LeBron James a better passer than Jason Kidd? No. Is LeBron James a better passer than Matt Johnson? No. Is LeBron James a better passer than Steve Nash? No. Is LeBron James a better passer than, Chris Paul? No. I mean, you could just go down the list, like I said, of all-time great point guards that were better passer. Man, shit, I'll put Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson was a better passer, man, than LeBron James, man. And you guys didn't maybe watch Mark Jackson or see Mark Jackson in his prime, or whatever. But you see where Mark Jackson is on the all-time assist list, right? He's above Magic Johnson. And that's not saying that he's better than Magic Johnson, but what I'm saying is the dude could drop dimes, man. Mark Jackson was a great disher of the ball, man. He was a great passer, man. And for these guys to act, these LeBron fans that don't appreciate the history of the game to act as if he's like the second greatest passer of all time or even the greatest passer of all time, it's laughable, man. Laughable, guys. So is LeBron James the greatest passing small forward? Maybe he is. But who else would have an argument about that? A guy named Larry Bird, right? Larry Bird was a phenomenal passer. I would say just as good as LeBron. You know what I'm saying? And Larry Bird's passes were a lot more flashier, man. See, that's the thing. When you talk about, skills as far as passing wise, the flash and the flair go along with that, right? The half court alley oops, the full court alley oops. I used to watch Jason Kidd throw to Richard Jefferson and Vince Carter. I've never seen LeBron do any of that stuff before. He's usually the recipient of an alley oop, right? So, when you talk about these kind of things, or even a Steve Nash, man, the way he used to drop the dimes in the paint to Amari Stoudemire or a Sean Marion, or a Shaq, any of these guys, a Joe Johnson, a Quentin Richardson, a Rajah Bell. I mean, Steve Nash was out there orchestrating, man. And like I said, Jason Kidd, hands down, a better passer than LeBron James. But those are not small forwards. Let's keep it small forwards. I would say LeBron and Larry Bird, like I said, you could interchange either one in passing wise. Okay? So now we talk about defense, right? Let's go to defensive now. So now the defense at the small forward position, who's the greatest defensive small forward? It's not LeBron James. LeBron James is not the greatest defensive small forward of all time. Now listen, I started watching basketball in about 1987, right? I was about 8 years old, right? And, the late 80s and the entire 90s was my generation, man. I was a teenager in the 90s, man. I watched all the games in the 90s. And, I grew up a Knicks fan. So I can't go back to the 60s or the 70s and tell you other small forwards that were maybe great defenders of that era. But just from, let's say this era, LeBron's not even the greatest defensive small forward of his generation. I would say maybe Kawhi Leonard would be the greatest defensive small forward. Now, I don't really like Kawhi Leonard. To me, I feel like he's kind of like a cornball, and I feel like he's soft. I don't know what his ailments are. I'm not a doctor or nothing like that or whatever. But to me, not a Kawhi Leonard fan. So I'm not saying Kawhi Leonard, to throw shade on LeBron at all. Because like I said, I don't even like Kawhi Leonard personally. Like I said, I think he's overrated. But defensively, I guess the proof is there. The man's got 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and he's consistently great on the defensive end. And I'm talking about on-ball defense. So I would put Kawhi Leonard ahead of LeBron. Now, would you put Kawhi Leonard ahead of LeBron, career-wise? Absolutely not. LeBron crushes Kawhi Leonard, career-wise. Absolutely. That's the thing about Kawhi Leonard that I don't like, is that I feel like he's very overrated for a guy who barely plays. Like, yeah, he's got a couple Finals MVPs and a couple of rings or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But let's not act as if, this guy is on that upper echelon, because he's not. Like I said, he can never even play, right? So you're never available. I can't put you up there. So we covered shooting, we covered scoring, shooting, passing, and defense, right? Passing, rebounding, and defense. 5 aspects we've covered. And LeBron is nowhere near the greatest in any one of those categories, except for, like I said, you can argue the passing, right? So he's not the greatest scorer. He's not the greatest rebounder. He's not the greatest defender. He's not the greatest rebounder. So if you're not even the greatest in almost every aspect of basketball at your position, how are you the greatest basketball player of all time? That doesn't even think about that. That doesn't even make any sense. Where if you flip it real quick and you look at Michael Jordan is easily the greatest scorer of all time. If we want to just keep it at positions, he's easily the greatest scoring shooting guard of all time, easily. Kobe probably, behind him, but it's not close, man. He's way better than Kobe as far as scoring goes. He's the greatest defensive shooting guard in history by a mile. Who would you argue is after him? Jerry West? Dwayne Wade? I don't know. Dwayne Wade was a great defensive guard, but he wasn't a lockdown dude like a Michael Jordan was. See, the difference with those guys were Michael Jordan was a great on-ball defender. He was a great help defender. He was a great team defender, along with his stealing ability and his shot blocking ability. The dude did it all. Some guys are great shot blockers. Maybe they're good at steals, but they're not good at on-ball defense, or they're not good help defenders, or they're not good team defenders, right? Michael Jordan could do everything, everything. See, people talk about Scottie Pippen and his great defensive play, but Scottie Pippen was not a shot blocker like Michael Jordan was for the position, right? And he wasn't as good, as quick defensively. Pippen didn't move as smooth as Michael Jordan, and if you watch the games, you'll know what I'm talking about. So when you look at how Michael Jordan was compared to the other shooting guards in the NBA history, and then you look at LeBron in other small forwards in NBA history, what do we realize? And this is what the guy tried to tell me. He tried to tell me that, what that shows me is that there's been more competition that LeBron's had to deal with than Michael Jordan. That doesn't make any sense. This is what these guys do. They try to down competition to increase LeBron or to make LeBron look better. No one's ever downed anybody else's competition to make Michael Jordan look better than them, or to make Kobe look better, or to make Kareem look better, or to make Magic look better, or to make Larry Bird. No one's like, Magic wasn't that great, at this, Larry Bird. No one ever did that. Either you thought Larry Bird was greater for whatever reason, or you thought Magic Johnson was greater for whatever reason, but it wasn't a takeaway from the other player. That's what these guys do. They try to take away from other players to lift another guy. So in conclusion, like I said, LeBron James is not even the greatest at his position. And LeBron James is good at a lot of things and not great at any one particular thing. Because if he was such a great passer and a pass first player, like a lot of these kids try to tell you, LeBron's he's number one and number two in the scoring list, and he's not even a shoot first guy, he's a pass first guy. If you're a pass first guy, then how come you never lead the league in assists consistently? You telling me he couldn't lead the league in assists 3-4 times in 19 years because he's a pass first player? But then you look at a guy like a Jason Kidd or a Steve Nash or a Chris Paul or a Magic Johnson or a John Stockton or a Mark Jackson. Like, these guys have led the league in assists or been at the top 2 or 3 every single season. LeBron is never in the top 2 or 3 every single season in assists, man. So when you're talking about leading the league in something, that shows you're great at something. Michael Jordan won 10 scoring titles. Why? Because he's great at scoring. He led the league in steals 3 times because he's good at defense. He made 9 all-defensive teams. Why? Because he's great at defense. There's evidence to show when people are great at an aspect of basketball, right? Like John Stockton is a great passer. He led the league in assists when Magic Johnson was still in his prime. When you had guys like Isaiah Thomas still in their prime, and John Stockton was out there for like 9 consecutive seasons leading the league in assists. But somehow John Stockton gets, dismissed from a lot of these conversations of greatest passers, and people automatically think LeBron's a greater passer than John Stockton. Why? I don't know why that is. So I just hit you guys with the facts there. LeBron is good at a lot of aspects, but he's not great at any one thing. He's not great at scoring, which is why he never led the league in scoring but one time. He's not a great scorer. How many 40-point games or 50-point games does LeBron have? Does anybody know how many 50-point games he has? Like, he doesn't score. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have a lot of 50-point. The dude played for 19 seasons. You'd think he'd have at least 19 40-point or 50-point games, right? Maybe one a season. He has scored 50 points. Not even close, man. Not even close. He's got like 14 of them shits. So it's crazy, man, when you really break it down into terms like that, like 40-point games or 50-point games and things like that, to see like who's really scoring and stuff, man. How does James Harden have more of those games than LeBron? That's embarrassing, man. Damian Lillard, I think he has just as many 50-point games as LeBron does. I mean, come on, man. These guys played a significantly less amount of years than he has. So that shows you he's not a great scorer. He's not a great passer. He's not, man. And when you look at the turnover ratio with his passing, that sums it up all you need to know right there. For every assist he dishes out, he turns the ball over. So, you're averaging 7 assists a game and you're averaging almost damn near 4 turnovers a game. Come on, man. Where you have somebody else, maybe they're averaging, 10 assists a game on, 2.5 turnovers, or 9.5 assists a game on like 3 turnovers. You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference, man. Right? LeBron can't shoot free throws. So he's just not, like I said, he's just not a great all-around player. He's a good overall player. He doesn't do anything great, nothing great. And you guys need to understand that and realize that he's just good at a lot of things, not great at any one particular thing.